Hey, this is Judah. In this video, we will go over 5 steps to make your church lighting maybe just a bit better. Stick around for a bonus tip at the end. Step 1. Know your board. This seems counterintuitive, but I see it all the time. People not knowing the layout of their boards or how it functions and operates. Know how to work your lighting board. Learn the layout of the keys and faders, how the system operates, and get comfortable with it. Try learning something new every week by experimenting. I find just messing around and trying to figure things out on your own is the best way to learn and memorize it. And if all else fails, you can always get help online or from an expert. Make it work for you. Depending on your board, you can customize it to your needs. Customize it in a way that your most important things are at your fingertips. I happen to work with MA consoles, which are great at customizing your own views to have everything you need when you need it, without having to dig through pages or views. Having things organized makes programming and operating much more efficient. Speaking of efficiency, try to learn shortcuts to make your process faster. I constantly find myself in situations where I have to design a certain look in a very short amount of time. This is a combination of knowing your board's layout and customizing it to your needs. Many boards have key shortcuts where double or triple tapping the key sends a different command. Try figuring out how to use that to your advantage to shave off some time that it would take typing it all out. Experiment with making and using macros to do several lines worth of commands with only one tap. Step 2. Don't be a distraction. Duh, isn't that the point? Why would I try to be distracting? Well, a lot of times your lighting is unintentionally a distraction without you realizing it. Using movement or effects when not needed can be a distraction. Here's an example of my own design years ago. Warning you now, the audio isn't great. So you can see, it seems like the circle effect being used is extra and not needed for the song. This example isn't terrible, but nonetheless it's still an example of what not to do and what can seem like a distraction. Another way of being distracting is always having your lights at 100%. I'm also guilty of this. I used to have this mentality that for every song I had to build it to white with all of my fixtures at 100% and in the audience no matter what the song was or how it felt. Boy, was I wrong. I started to play around with dialing it back, and I kind of enjoyed it better. I started to just build my lights at the same rate and range as the band was playing. Sometimes it means just making the lights a bit brighter, maybe desaturated a bit, not going all out. Here's another example of not going to 100%, but it's still looking and feeling pretty good. So you see, at this point it's already started to build, and it's continuing to build at the same rate that the band is building. And here I open up. Still not at 100%, just brightened up a little bit and a nice amber color, same color as the tungstens actually, which by the way the tungstens are only maybe at about 20% here. That's a pretty nice example of not going all out. Next is don't change the lights every time a song changes. What do I mean by that? Well, during a song you typically have segments of a song. You have verses, choruses, bridges. Just because a song goes from a verse to a chorus doesn't mean you need to make a change in lighting. And I'm not saying that can't ever happen, just find the right times to do it. If the music changes drastically, and it has more or less energy, by all means, change something with lighting. But if the song goes from a verse to a chorus, but the mood of the song doesn't really change much, you probably don't need to change lighting, as that creates a change in the visual environment for the congregation, but not an audible change. Here's a good one. Don't blind the congregation. You came to worship, not lose their sight. All jokes aside, if you're constantly shining the lights into the audience, it can create discomfort which can lead to not having an intimate time of worship. Especially with beams or gobos, they can really hurt the eye if shining directly in them for too long. A way around that, when a song opens up, use a little bit of movement. Whether it's a dim tilt flyout, slow circles, or even a dimmer sine wave, as to not have light directly in someone's eye for extended periods of time. Not many people mention this one, but if your sanctuary looks like this, something's wrong. Haze is usually something many people overlook about using too much of. Haze is supposed to complement the lights, allow you to see the beams, and create an atmosphere. When there's too much haze that it starts getting hard to breathe, maybe turn it off. And the same concept of not always being at 100% applies to haze as well. It doesn't need to run the entire service, just until it's enough to see the beams. This next step is one that I had a hard time figuring out on my own. Step 3. Feel the room. When designing lights, whether through programming or running it completely live, take a few moments during rehearsal to just listen and look. Be part of the worship. Maybe it's easier to step away from the console as not to be distracted and just go sit in a seat or walk around while the band is playing. Get a feel of what you're experiencing through the sound. Then think about what you can do with the lighting to complete the experience to make it come together with the sound. Just remember, they aren't there to experience cool lights. They are there to experience Jesus. Lighting just helps create the environment. Operate to the mood of the song. Get a feel of what the energy of the song is. Is it a high energy song that makes you want to bop your head and clap? Is it a more intimate song that people will be on their knees singing? Choose your colors wisely. Color can be a game changer when it comes to lighting. It helps set the mood of the moment. Building and dropping the lights with the song. As the band starts building, getting louder, start building your lights. When it drops musically, drop the lights. Lighting needs to follow the band. Using movement in worship can accent the energy. Maybe that's doing slow circles with lights as the band progressively gets louder. Maybe that looks like building into a sine wave. For some of you, that may just look like letting the people on stage to do all the movement. Step 4. Be part of worshiping. When we get vulnerable and let God take control, we see things differently than how we would on our own. Participate in worship and that will open a new view. When we're practicing worshiping instead of just making lights look cool, we open our eyes to how it should really look like, how it should really feel. Remember that you are part of making a worshipful environment. When we decide to just worship, we see distractions that we may not see when we're not, and we're able to eliminate those distractions during run-throughs. Lastly, be the leader and example for the people around you. It's important to show, even when you are working behind a computer or console, you are just as much involved in worship as anyone else. Step 5. Have a backup plan. I can't tell you how many times I've programmed specific looks for songs we've practiced in run-throughs. Then when service comes, the band goes off plan and I'm stuck. This one's a mouthful, but always have a backup plan for when the plan goes off plan. You can build that however you'd like, but I find these 3 things very important and helpful. Have a build fader. This fader just brings the intensity of my ground package up and makes them white. This way, when the band does something that wasn't planned, I can still build lights with them using that fader. Position faders. I always have at least one position fader so I can make different looks on the fly. The most common one I use is my flown rig in an audience fan position, so I can make them on the fly big moments. Last one I have is a backup front light fader. The way I program my lighting, I include front light to the programming, but if for whatever reason the worship pastor starts singing or talking when I had no front light programmed in, I can still use that fader to bring his front light up. Now any of those you can make to fit your needs specifically. Lastly, always be ready to use them. The way I look at it is, I assume I'm going to have to use them, so I am always mentally ready and cautious of where they are and how I'm going to use them. Alright, here's the bonus tip. Be responsible and prepared. Take responsibility to operate with excellence. Give this year 110% best as you are a key role in helping people have an encounter with Jesus in worship. Take responsibility to maintain your lights. It seems obvious, but it's important to take care of the things God has blessed you with. Clean fixtures, dust the console, wipe lenses, etc. The last and final thing to help make your church lighting better is to be ready by the time doors open. Don't be scrambling to try to finish programming a set minutes before the doors open. This should be done and checked well before doors open. Alright, that's all I have for this video. It would be greatly appreciated if you left a thumbs up and subscribed for more content just like this one. See you in the next one.